If the world were like a Sleep Number mattress, everything would adapt for your comfort. Because as your life changes and your body changes, Sleep Number mattresses adapt and shift to give you personalized comfort night after night. And now it's the final days of our Everything's on Sale event. Save up to $1,200 on mattresses. Our Memorial Day event ends Monday. To experience a whole new world of comfort, visit a Sleep Number store or go to sleepnumber.com. Sleep Number, to a good life sleep.
It's time for the Larry H. Miller Utah Summer Games at Southern Utah University in Cedar City. Register today to participate in the 40th anniversary season of a Utah sports tradition at utahsummergames.org. Participate in over 50 sports around the state. Then plan to join the opening ceremonies Friday, June 5th, presented by State Bank of Southern Utah. Register today to participate in the 40th anniversary season of the Larry H. Miller Utah Summer Games.
Welcome back to the Saturday Show, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Christian Esparza, Alex Napoles, and right now we are joined by Bryson Akins. He covers the Washington Wizards for SI Now. Bryson, thanks for taking a couple minutes to join us.
Thank you for having me on. Thank you.
So what was the feelings down there, or I guess out there in Washington, once the Wizards... you see John Wall up on the TV screen and the Wizards get the number one pick. And what was the feelings for the Washington Wizards fans?
It felt like luck had finally turned around. As you know, the Cooper Flag draft, they were one ping pong ball away from having Coop. The Victor Wembanyama draft, they were one ping pong ball away from having Wemby. The Zion Williamson draft, when he was rumored to be the next big thing, they were one ping pong ball away from drafting him as well. So it finally looked like luck has turned around in Washington and they can get their franchise guy. But I know Wizards fans were just hoping they got top three because they knew anyone in the top three was going to change the entire trajectory of the franchise. But first, overall, it just felt like the NBA had finally listened to the kind of prayers that Wizards fans were sending out, being like, hey, like, we desperately need this.
This Wizards team has not been in the playoffs since, I believe, 2020, 2021 season. So they're on a similar timeline, I guess, to the Jazz. So it is interesting having these two teams be the number one and number two picks. And then, of course, you throw in the A.J. DeBonsa ties to Utah. I guess, are the Wizards... Are they actually serious or considering trading out of number one, or is that just kind of an online thing that people are putting together because of the A.J. DeBonsa ties?
Yes and no. So the yes part, it is basically, look, we're fine with taking one of AJ, Darren Peterson, or Cameron Boozer. Like, we'll be fine with any of those three guys. We can make it work. It doesn't really matter. It's more so seeing, look, it's basically what happened last year. The Wizards really wanted Ace Bailey. And Utah was like, hey, what are you willing to do to get Ace Bailey at 5? And Wizards were like, we're not going to trade up. Now it's something similar with Utah where it's like, hey, how bad do you want to trade for one to secure you get A.J. DeBonsa? That's what it is, where it's like, we're fine taking whoever we want. We'll stay at 1. It's just a matter of how, how much are you willing to give up to get your guy right here in the draft?
Do you feel right now that in any conversations that you have out there, or I guess the temperature gauge out there for where the Wizards are leading at number one is, the conversations and many mock drafts that I see kind of flip-flop between A.J. DeBonsa and Darren Peterson. Where do the Wizards land in? Do they see A.J. DeBonsa as the number one, or do they see Darren Peterson as the number one?
From what I've heard and seen around so far, it's looking like it's 80-20, AJ at 80, Peterson at 20. I just think it's the fact that AJ, as we see a ton of people report on, he is the safe option. You know what you're going to get from him no matter what. And Darren Peterson, there's more of the question mark. It's like, okay, we understand the cramping stuff at Kansas. How much of that is going to translate into the NBA? What other injury problems is he going to have? And then with Boozer, it's more so like, okay, we know like he is like a Kevin Love kind of archetype player when you're looked at prime Kevin Love when he was with the Minnesota Timberwolves. But it's a question of, is he athletic enough to play in the modern NBA? And so it just makes it A.J. DeBonsa as a safe pick, and it's looking more likely than not they're going to take A.J. at first overall.
Will Dawkins is the GM for Washington. He took over in 2023. He came from Oklahoma City. sounds like a lot of people in Washington are really high on him. He's only had a couple of drafts there, but what are your thoughts on Will Dawkins? And on top of that, has he established kind of a pattern in what he likes to draft as far as like an archetype of a player?
Yeah, you can kind of even look back at when he was in Oklahoma City. The main reason they ended up taking Jalen Williams was because he was in that draft room. Was like, look, he's someone that we should really consider taking at 12th overall. He's going to have a ton of upside here, and so he likes these kind of lanky arm, athletic wings. You also look at it when he traded up to get Keyshawn George, when he traded up to get Will Riley. That's his kind of archetype, which kind of also solidifies to me why they would want AJ over Boozer or Peterson, but. Overall, I think he's done a great job. He definitely has the kind of eye for talent, especially in the later rounds. When you look at that 20 through 30 range, who he's been able to draft there, especially second round, getting Jamir Watkins last season, who looked like one of the better second round picks, earning a standard contract as well. But I do know Wizards fans are extremely happy him and Michael Winger are in the driving seat instead of Tommy Shepard now.
Looking at the Jazz and the Wizards are kind of on the similar timeline with the rebuilds, where they both make some trades at the deadline to try to now push themselves into a window where they're looking to get back into the playoffs, and they're looking back at winning basketball. What is, I guess, the feelings of Trae Young and Anthony Davis going over to Washington this past season, and are they players that they can hitch their wagon on and become playoff contenders?
Trae Young, yes. From everything that we've heard from Will Dawkins when they did their introductory press conference for him, it looks like he's going to be here for a couple years. He wants to be in Washington. Him and Will Dawkins already had a relationship dating all the way back to Oklahoma City when Trae Young was in high school at Norman North and going to OU. While Dawkins was there working for the Thunder, they already had that relationship, and it just continued on when he reached the NBA. The opportunity presented themselves to be like, hey, we can go after and get him. They got it. They got Trae Young for a relatively kind of a steal, trading CJ McCollum and Corey Kispert, not trading a single draft pick in that deal, which was really impressive. But this looks like it's going to be a long-term thing for Trae Young in Washington. I'd expect him to be there for 4 to 6 years at the minimum. And then Anthony Davis, it looks like they would like him to be a little bit more locked in and be like, hey, buy into the team. There's actually something here. But Anthony Davis, it doesn't seem like he really wants to be there. And I can't blame him. He's at the point of his career. He's 33 years old. He's got 4 years left probably in the NBA. At this point, you're like, look, I only want to play for rings. I don't want to spend a season or two on a team developing, trying to get into the playoffs and be one of the top teams in their conference. I want to play for an instant contender. So it's kind of one of these tricky scenarios where it's like, look, buy in. Maybe we can trade you at the deadline. Kind of reshape your value a little bit, send you to a contender, go win a championship with them in a season or two, and we also win out of it because we end up getting something out of this trade as well.
You mentioned some of the recent draft picks the Wizards have had, right? Like Keyshawn George. Last year they bring in Trey Johnson. Alex Sarr has been playing really well for them the last couple of years. So they've got a solid young core, plus whoever the Wizards are going to take at number 1 this year. How do you feel like Trae Young fits alongside those guys? Obviously, he's quite a bit older now at this point. Does it feel like he is a good kind of veteran to be in the group, or is there almost kind of an awkward age gap where it's trying to balance 2 different timelines for this team?
I think he's perfect for the group. When he is a veteran, he's been in the league for a little bit, but it's not like he's Anthony Davis, 33 years old. Trae Young is 28 years old, if I'm not mistaken, where it's like it's not that big of an age gap between him and Jamir Watkins, for example, who they just drafted. It's a 4-year age difference where it's not as, it's not like it's a decade compared with Anthony Davis to Alex Sarr. It's not like there's that much disconnect. And Trae Young, in the 5 short games that we did see him there, he did change up how he played a little bit. Instead of him being like the number 1 scoring option, he took more of a main facilitator role. And I don't want, like, when I say this, it's not a direct comparison where it's like, oh, he played exactly like him. But it's kind of like when you would watch Steve Nash play back in the day, where it's like he was the facilitator. He got the offense going. He'd give you 18 points, but he's going to give you an extra 25 just off his passing ability, where that's where Trae Young kind of fits in. He's kind of bought into that role. He's that veteran leader, presence. He's been to the playoffs a few times. He's been to an Eastern Conference Finals more than what a ton of other players they could have traded for have done in their career, especially guys that were already on the team. CJ McCollum, he's never made it past the first round, I think, until no, I don't think he has ever, if I'm not mistaken. They had Chris Middleton, but he wasn't, from what I heard, as much of a vocal leader in the locker room as CJ McCollum was being. And so Trae Young is the perfect guy that they could have went out and got.
So we know the East is relatively weak year to year. So I guess with all of these young players and then the additions that the Wizards made at the trade deadline, and then assuming you bring in either AJ DeBonsa or Darren Peterson, how do you feel about the Wizards' ability to compete right away in the East? Do you think they're looking at a playoff run next year, or do you think in their mind they want to hammer out and finish this rebuild for another season or two?
When Will Dawkins did his end-of-season press conference, he mentioned how it's like the rebuild isn't technically over, but the train is leaving the station right now. Like, you better get on now if you want to be a part of this team. You better buy in. The train is leaving. You can't buy a ticket anymore. Where next season, it is more so development where they're looking at, okay, this guy is someone that we want to extend and keep for a while. This guy, we're not really thinking he's going to, do much for us in 2 seasons. Let's try to see if we can trade him for more additional assets down the line. That's what next season's all about. Of course, they're going to want to make the playoffs. They're not going to outright try to lose 17 games next season. The goal should be to try to at least be in the play-in to show like, hey, we have made improvement. Here is a playoff-like atmosphere for these guys to get used to it and get ready for playoff basketball in the 27-28 season. 26-27 is more so, hey, this is when we're really starting to show the signs that this is a serious basketball team and no longer the joke of the NBA as they had been for the past 5 to 6 years. And so that's what it's all about.
I think there was a collective sigh here in the state of Utah on Thursday when the new lottery reform gets voted, and that the Jazz are turning that corner and aren't necessarily positioning themselves to be in a lottery spot anymore. Is there? I guess what's your take on the new 3-2-1 lottery reform system? What is how does the Washington Wizards feel about it, and is it a good time for? Do they feel like it's a good time for them too as well to be moving on from lottery positioning?
Personally, I think it is a horrible idea what Adam Silver has done to the lottery. I think this is something that can, I don't want to say ruin the NBA, but it's going to make a lot of fans question, is this really the commissioner that we want in the league? For the Wizards, though, this is a perfect scenario for them. From 2028 to 2030, they either outright own another team's pick or has rights to swap with another team. So with this new flattened odds, they could, for example, they have the Portland Trail Blazers pick in 2028 and 2029, I believe. Mm-hmm. The Blazers in a tough West, they're going to be a play-in team, if not even make the play-in. Now you all of a sudden have a chance to get another top 5 pick, maybe even first overall in 2028 to add on to a Washington Wizards team who is already going to be really good in the East in 2 years. And so this current lottery system, it is amazing for Washington. But personally, I hate it. I think it's going to be horrible for teams like Memphis that we saw when you guys traded a ton of first-round draft picks to get JJJ, and now Memphis, all of a sudden, that first-round draft pick from you guys can't even be top 5. Yeah. So it's going to be tough for them where, there are going to be teams that really hate it. There are going to be teams that really thrive from it, like, Washington, OKC, San Antonio. They're going to thrive in this new lottery system. It's a horrible idea what they've done, but, Washington, they got to love what they are seeing from this now.
He is Bryson Akins. You can find his work on SI Now, where he writes about the Washington Wizards. Bryson, thank you so much for taking some time to join us. And I guess we'll see if the Jazz and the Wizards kind of have a little rivalry over the next couple of seasons after all this drama.
We'll see. Thank you guys for having me.
Thanks, Bryson.
Thanks, Bryson. Take care. Good stuff from Bryson there. I think the Anthony Davis stuff is really interesting because that trade did not make sense ever at the trade deadline. And then now that we are a few months removed from that trade and in the offseason part of it, especially after getting the number 1 overall pick, it's like Anthony Davis just does not belong in that roster at all.
No, he doesn't. And, he brings up a really good point where Anthony Davis is at that age where you kind of want to be ring chasing, right? You don't have a lot of time left. And especially with how much he's hurt and how I guess, undependable he is because of.
Well, and it sounds like he doesn't even want to be there.
Yeah, now all of a sudden it turns out I might not actually want to be here. So
of course he doesn't, right?
We'll see. I don't know what team in the right mind would want to trade for an injured Anthony Davis at this age.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
But if they can actually turn him around and get something back out of him, that might not be bad business for the Washington Wizards.
I just can't believe it's just a domino effect from that terrible Luka Doncic trade, right?
Yes,
Dallas got nothing in return, essentially, for Luka because they didn't get anything after they traded away Anthony Davis. So,
right.
I mean, they got nothing of value, right? They had to get something in return, but they didn't.
Trade.
They didn't get anything in return, and Anthony Davis is just unhappy wherever he's at, right? He forced his way out of New Orleans. I guess he was happy in LA, but he didn't want to be in Dallas. He didn't want to be in Washington. Again, somebody, like you're saying, somebody is going to have to trade for him, but his price is so low now. I don't know. When he's on the court, he can still be a really effective player. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, but again, that's when.
That's when.
Right. And that's been I think the biggest issue for Anthony Davis the last couple seasons is the fact that he has been out more than he's been available.
Yeah.
I think the Lakers moved on from it at a perfect time, and it's still one of the weirdest head scratchingest trades as far as Luka Doncic going over to the Lakers in exchange for Anthony Davis, but good on Dallas to move on from it. Now it seems like he doesn't want to be in Washington, which is weird because they have a young core. They can potentially turn that corner and maybe start something in Washington, and Anthony Davis just doesn't want to be part of it.
Sounds like there is a little more buy-in from Trae Young, which is interesting. Remember when he took the Hawks to the Eastern Conference Finals, he looked like he was one of the next big things in the NBA, and then he kind of plateaued really, really early on after that.
Yeah.
I do wonder what sort of mentor he can be over there in Washington to some of those young players. But at the end of the day, I mean, a dude that's buying in the way that Trae Young is and Anthony Davis isn't, I think that's a good thing for all the young players over on the Wizards.
Absolutely. And again, I still have questions on whether or not Trae Young can be the guy to put the Washington Wizards over the top.
Yeah.
But we'll see how it plays out. I don't think we saw nearly enough from Trae Young in a Washington jersey this past season. Obviously, they were in that situation too, where they're trying to position themselves in a lottery spot, and so
they didn't get fined, by the way.
Yeah, you don't necessarily expect him to play a lot, but the games that he did play, it seemed like he was a little reserved, as in it wasn't the Trae Young that you saw in Atlanta. Even the plateaued late in the season, late in his Atlanta career, Trae Young, and so I'm wondering now next season if, once they turn that corner and once they are positioning themselves to try to be winning basketball games, can Trae Young turn that corner as well too and get back to a Trae Young that we saw in Atlanta versus the one that seemed very reserved when he did play for Washington.
And of course, the AJ DeBonta stuff is really fascinating. I mean, I think that AJ's a great fit for the Wizards roster. They've drafted a ton of guards over the last few drafts. Of course, none of them are as good as Darren Peterson, right? So you could completely just bring him in as the top dog. But if you're happy with some of these other guys like Kaishan George and Trey Johnson, Bub Carrington, Trae Young, right? Those are all guards. Bring in AJ DeBonta as a wing and have him play next to Alex Sarr.
It seems like that would be the natural fit, right? The natural pick. If you are in fact that happy with Trae Young, if you are in fact that happy with the guards that you already have in place, it doesn't make it. When you have somebody like AJ DeBonta at the top and Darren Peterson at the top, well, why would we want to bring in? You think long term as well too, but why would you want to bring in if Trae Young is your long term plan? It seems like you can mitigate that a little bit with bringing in AJ DeBonta, and now you can have a team where Trae Young and AJ DeBonta are running the show versus planning for the future with Darren Peterson as well.
And for the record, I don't think that there's any credibility to the Jazz trading up. I think the Jazz have a due diligence just to see, as all 29 teams in the NBA have a due diligence to see what it would take to trade up to number one.
Right.
And if you're the Wizards, you have a due diligence to see if somebody's going to be stupid and overpay for the number one overall pick. Because if you think you can swindle the Jazz or swindle the Grizzlies and still end up with one of AJ, Darren Peterson, or Cam Boozer, then you make that trade. But ultimately, if you're not going to get an offer that blows you away, then you're perfectly fine with sitting at 1 and taking AJ DeBonsa.
Absolutely. And because it's this draft and because you have this talent pool and because you have these players at the top, it seems like a fairly right. If there is not an offer that you think is worth taking, it seems fairly fine that you go and you pick at number 1, because I think it is. I don't know if rare is the right word. I don't know if maybe pleasure. It is a pleasure to go and have the number 1 pick, and you were able to go out and make that decision, because it's not often that you get the number 1 overall pick. Because of the lottery system, because of the way that the NBA is shaped up, it's not often that you can go out there and say, hey, I picked so-and-so at number 1.
The Wizards have had 2 number 1 overall picks.
When was the last one?
2010, they took
It's been a while.
John Wall.
Hey, there you go.
And their other one, 2001, you know who that was?
Uh-uh.
Kwame Brown.
Oh, okay.
The biggest bust
Oof.
ever.
So not the best track record for the Wizards.
Well, John Wall was good.
Yeah.
He dealt with injuries. Probably not as good as you'd want from a number 1 overall pick.
I don't know if he ever reached the level that I think that they wanted him to reach.
No.
Right.
No.
And partially has to do with the injuries.
He was representing the Wizards when they won this number 1 overall pick. So maybe that's enough to make up for his shortcomings during his career. You know?
You give him the luck for the number 1?
Yeah.
And that makes up for that.
Yeah, that makes up for him not living up to
okay. I like that. I like that train of thought.
But ultimately, I don't know. There's a lot of talk about this new GM and how good he is. But at the end of the day, it's the Wizards, man.
Right.
So do you really trust that they're going to properly develop whoever they bring in? And I just don't know. I don't know.
And maybe, the Washington Wizards throw a complete curveball at everybody. And, you look back at that the 2017 draft where Boston's at number 1 and you move down to pick somebody that you really, really want. And then you end up with a bunch of assets that you can play on with later.
Right.
And, what if they want Cameron Boozer? What if they want Caleb Wilson? And they don't want it, and they believe they can take him at 3-4, and somebody makes that move. Swindled.
Right.
Just like Boston did.
Well, Memphis has the assets to move up. I mean, nobody wants that Jazz pick anymore, so I don't know what that's worth. But theoretically, if Memphis wanted to move up from 3 to 1, they could.
Yeah.
I genuinely don't think the Jazz would move up because it sounds like the starting point is Ace Bailey, and I don't know why the Jazz would do that. The Jazz would never do that. They'd be ridiculous to include Ace Bailey in any sort of package.
Right.
Because the whole idea is to pair this number 2 overall pick with Ace Bailey.
I think it's because, again, it is this draft, and you have this type of talent at the top of the draft. I think you're okay with where you're at.
Well, and
if you're the Utah Jazz,
right?
Whether it's Washington decides to trade down, whether it's Washington decides to go AJ, whether it's Washington decides to go Darren Peterson, it still seems like you're in a very good position to get an All NBA franchise-changing player.
These rumors wouldn't even be out there if AJ DeBonsa didn't go to BYU.
I would probably agree, because if there wasn't that BYU Utah Jazz connection.
Right.
Then I don't think
nobody would care.
Then I don't think anybody would have this conversation. But
exactly.
it is the fact that AJ DeBonsa has said that he has a desire to stay in Utah, that this conversation is even a thing. That trading up is even a talking point.
We'll see. We'll see what happens. Just a few weeks away, about 3 weeks from Tuesday, I believe.
Can't get here soon enough, man.
I'm very excited.
Can't get here soon enough. I think every Jazz fan online on Twitter is ready. They're ready to see who they pick. They're ready to see who their guy is. And again, I think no matter who they pick, I think everybody's ready to back that pick.
And it's going to be a lot of fun for a lot of years.
Absolutely.
Let's take a break. Coming up next, we got 5 minutes of still a couple of big stories that came out. One coming out last night. Sounds like there's a bunch of layoffs up at the University of Utah, and they have to do with the private equity deal with Otro Capital. So that is a big news story. We will get to that next. Stick with us. It's the Saturday Show, 97.5 DKSL Sports Zone.
If the world were like a Sleep Number mattress, everything would adapt for your comfort. Because as your life changes and your body changes, Sleep Number mattresses adapt and shift to give you personalized comfort night after night. And now it's the final days of our Everything's on Sale event. Save up to $1,200 on mattresses. Our Memorial Day event ends Monday. To experience a whole new world of comfort, visit a Sleep Number store or go to sleepnumber.com. Sleep Number, to a good life sleep.
Welcome back to the Saturday Show 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Christian Esparza, Alex Napoles. It's time for 5 minutes of. Got a couple more stories left to talk about in the show. Not a ton of time left. Real quick, PSG tied things up on a penalty kick. It's 1-1, taking on Arsenal in the championship.
There you go.
Big article, big news drop last night from the Deseret News. Jason Batakow with the bombshell. University of Utah Athletic Department begins unsettling layoff process as part of private equity deal. This comes a day after another article in which a Utah auditor basically said that Utah's private equity deal comes with a ton of risk, and Utah was bleeding money out the gills.
Not just risk, Christian. Significant risk.
I said a ton. I guess significant
risk
sounds.
It sounds more damaging.
Yeah,
you know, it sounds
right.
It sounds scarier.
So the significant risk one day, and then literally the next day you're going on with these layoffs. Now the article does make sure to point out that most of these people that are being laid off, I haven't seen like which positions are being laid off. Mm-hmm. Each impacted employee, though, will have the opportunity to interview for a similar position with the new company. But this is understandably an unsettling process to go through for these individuals. That is in a statement from Director Mark Harlan.
And part of that new company aligns with the Ultra Capital, if I'm not mistaken. The Crimson Brand Partners.
Yes.
The Crimson Brand Partners is what they're calling it.
So that is Utah's branch, essentially, that is Ultra Capital's branch of the Utah Athletics Department.
There you go.
Is that Crimson Brand Partners. But it's not a surprise that, of course, this private equity company is going to come in and trim the fat. And again, want to reiterate the fact, a lot of these people, if not every one of them, is going to have a chance to be rehired for a similar position, right? But you see this whenever private equity dips their toes into anything, one of the first things they do is trim the fat. Where are we wasting money? Where are we spending money on things that are not necessary? What positions, what people can we cut? What corners can we cut to increase our profit?
Right.
You know, I'm thinking of Jersey Mike's. That was a big story a couple years ago. They were bought out by private equity. A year later, people are taking videos. My Jersey Mike's sub is not as big as it used to be because they're not putting as much meat on it because the private equity company is trimming the fat. They're trying to save every penny that they can.
Same thing happened with Cafe Rio.
Exactly.
And I'll never forgive the people who did that to Cafe Rio. It is interesting, the timing of it, too, because, of course, you mentioned it a day earlier. The report comes out that to avoid reporting losses, the athletic department dipped into their financial reserves to cover what would have been a loss. And so instead of reporting losses, they're reporting that they're in the green because they dipped into their reserves. And so they're trying to make it seems like they're trying to make their books look a little bit better than they really were.
I wonder how much of that is standard practice.
I'd be curious.
I bet everybody does that, if I'm being honest with you. So that part is not as worrying to me as just because we had heard that this deal was announced a long time ago at this point. And then we didn't hear anything.
They had their press conference, I think, in January, if I'm not mistaken.
Then we didn't hear anything at all.
Yeah.
Like, at all. And it got to the point where people were like, hey, what happened to that deal? Like, is it still on? And now you hear about it 2 days ago in the initial article, or 3 days ago, right? And then it seems like this thing is going and underway now, so there's all these layoffs. And layoffs are scary, man. And people have families, and it's scary to think about, how many families are affected by this. And I know that when you are running a business, you have decisions to make for the business and for the brand, but this is something that people were expecting. It's not like this is an unexpected move where somebody comes in and they're just deciding to cut positions. And we don't know exactly, right, if positions are being cut. So I guess we need to give them the benefit of the doubt. But losing a job is a scary thing.
It is a scary thing. And I'm glad that they have at least some process of to interview and
Allegedly
to be able to stay employed.
But
Whether or not that happens.
who's to say Outro Capital doesn't have their other people
Right.
coming in and they essentially have the job already, but as a formality to make this press release look good, they're going to say, oh, don't worry, even though they're laid off, they're going to be rehired.
Right.
You know, if everything were, you know, in a perfect world, these people would just change positions over to the new Crimson brand partners and say I work for them now, instead of going through the process of, oh, I was laid off, but don't worry, I get a re-interview for the same job. I don't know how many of these people are going to get those jobs back.
And again, this is all happening because the report from the auditor that came out on Thursday, going back to the dipping into the reserves and dipping into the losses, the athletic department reported $61.5 million in reserves in 2024 and just over $42 million in 2025. The auditor says that that number of the reserve is estimated to drop at $5.8 million this year. So you're going from $42 million to $5.8 million, which is insane. You are bleeding money.
Yeah, that's a lot.
You're hemorrhaging money, and that is unsustainable for any business, for any, university. That is unsustainable. You can't sustain your athletic programs when you're losing that much money.
And part of the reason this is such an interesting story is because we don't know of any other universities that are doing this. And this is
this is the first of its kind.
Right. This is a completely unheard of thing.
You do have the Big 12 trying to dip their toe into private equity too.
But it sounds like that's a completely different thing as well.
Yes.
Like it's not this private equity company coming in and taking over part of the University of Utah athletic department.
As far as the Ultra Capital deal goes, it feels like Utah's selling off its future to
stay alive
for a quick loan.
Right. Are you not going to need money in the future?
Right.
That's what I guess that's the hard part for this is if there was a guarantee for Utah to not just get its head above water, because now, since, as you mentioned, it's essentially a loan, right? So you're going to need to pay back on interest. So you don't need just your head above water. You need to get out of the water completely.
Yeah.
Whenever the payment comes due.
Right.
So what is Utah's avenue to doing that? I don't see how this is going to work.
Where does the money come from eventually to pay them off and to pay back?
Right.
If you already are in this position, and I am curious to see where that money is going. Is it going to the roster? Is it going to players? Is it going to NIL to try to keep a competitive edge?
Everything.
Is it going to the renovations that you want to do to the Huntsman Center? Is it going to the money that you still allegedly owe from the Rice Eccles Stadium renovation?
Yes.
That you're still apparently paying back? That's also stated in this article.
Everything. All those things you mentioned right there, they all
Right.
cost millions and millions and tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars.
$1 million.
Yeah, nice. What worries me is it just seems like Utah is doing this in an effort to keep up with the Joneses, right?
Yeah.
They feel pressure to spend now that they're in the Big 12, and rosters cost money. Your football roster costs money. Your coach, he costs money. Even though Scally is cheaper than Kyle Whittingham, he costs money.
Oh man, what was that letter that came out when about Kyle Whittingham?
Which one?
How much are they still paying him?
Wasn't it?
Was
I want
it
to say
8?
6 to 8 or something like
something
that.
So eventually, you need money for that.
So you're
You
still
need money
paying for
that.
your former coach.
Yeah, you still need money for that too.
All of these things cost money and money and money, and that's what Utah sees. And they're like, okay, we don't have the money to pay for this to keep up. And that's all it is a matter of keeping up. It's not even like it's not like they're being Texas Tech and just spending more than everybody else. They're doing this in an effort to spend almost as much as everybody else. Because I guarantee even with this, Utah is not even in the top half of the Big 12 as far as spending in their athletic budget, and much less their football roster.
Yeah, the more that comes out about this private equity deal, and I mean, just my basic understanding of it, it seems like it's a bad idea.
Do you think BYU has any, do you think the fact that BYU is the big rival down the road and they're spending like crazy, do you think that has anything to do with this?
Absolutely. And we'd be silly to think it's not.
You think they're just saying, okay, look at what BYU's doing. We can spend money too.
Right.
Except we got to ask for the money.
Right.
Instead of having donors.
You'd be silly to think it's not, that doesn't have to play a big part in it. Because, I mean, you just look at what they did last season in bringing in the number 1 basketball recruit in AJ DeBonsa.
Yes.
And
and
the crazy numbers that were floating out there, man, on how much they allegedly paid DeBonsa to join BYU.
Darren Peterson going to Kansas, right?
Right.
Like a lot of these Big 12 schools, even looking at Cincinnati on the basketball side, sounds like they're going to have at least $10 million basketball roster next year.
Right. And all those reports coming out, and particularly the ones from BYU, I mean, there's no reason not to think that there's a little bit of that feeling of, oh, they're doing this to keep up with BYU, to keep up with the rest of the Big 12. And it feels like
but the pressure's on you. The pressure's on you even more because your little brother's right down the road.
Right, but is it worth it to sell out your future for this cash influx?
I wouldn't think so. But it's so hard to say because you don't know what the future is going to look like financially. But you're always going to have to spend, and you spend more and more every single year. It's just digging the hole deeper and deeper.
Right.
And so when you got to pay the due for this deal down the line, they're going to have to figure out something else to come up with a bunch of money.
Right.
Except even more at that point.
And maybe Ultra Capital's coming in to help reduce their spending. You know, they're hemorrhaging money now, and they're coming in and they're hoping to plug in some of those holes.
Again, trim the fat. That's the first thing that private equity does.
Right. And maybe that's all you need.
I doubt it.
Who knows?
I mean, laying off a couple of people isn't going to save you millions and millions and millions of dollars.
That's true. That is a very good point.
Anyway, I feel for the people that lost their jobs last night. That is tough.
It's tough, man.
Just knowing families that have been affected by layoffs and stuff. It's terrible.
Yeah.
And so I hope these people can land on their feet, whether it is with this Crimson whatever, or finding a new job elsewhere where maybe it would be a good thing to get out of athletics, because that seems like a crazy place to work right now. I want to clarify, not just the University of Utah, but just I think working in college athletics at all right now.
Right.
It's crazy.
Right.
It's a lot.
It is a lot. And I mean, again, we were talking about it earlier. There needs to be rules and regulations. Somebody's trying to come in and put rules and regulations with the CSE, the commission, the bills that are, people are trying to pass through legislation, etc. But yet nobody wants to play on the same playing field. So it's a mess.
All right, we got to take another break. Coming up next, we will wrap up the show. Also hit on Stanley Cup finals. Those are set. We know who's going to be playing. We'll touch on that next. Stick with us. It's the Saturday Show, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Hey there, it's Wayfair here, where delivery and setup are as easy as a few taps on your phone. You're relaxing in an old hammock, scrolling Wayfair's app, when you spot it, a brand new patio set. Next thing you know, Wayfair delivers it right to your patio and sets it up. Oh, you need a new grill too? All right, Wayfair's got you covered. With Wayfair's Room of Choice delivery and fast expert setup on qualifying orders, life gets a little easier. Visit wayfair.com or the Wayfair app.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
Make game day yours. Tickets, food and drinks, stats, and streaming. Everything you need is in the Utah Mammoth app. Download today and make game night easy. Download on both Android and iPhone. Tusk Top.
Welcome back to the Saturday Show, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Christian Esparza, Alex Napoles. This game's still tied up.
Looks like it's going to go to extra time.
The Champions League championship.
Yes.
Champions League final?
Yes.
Is that the correct term?
Final would be, yeah.
PSG and Arsenal, by the way, 1-1. Oh, what was that? The TV looked like it was about to turn off.
Glitched.
Yeah, this is going to go extra time. Well, they put 6 minutes on the end of the first half. They'll probably put 8 on the end of this one.
Yeah.
For no reason.
Probably. I can't think of very many stoppages that there was in this game, so we'll see.
Alex, the Stanley Cup finals are set. The Golden Knights taking on the Carolina Hurricanes. Golden Knights swept the Colorado Avalanche after one of the more impressive regular seasons that we have seen in a very long time coming from Colorado. They were the heavy favorites in the West. They get swept in the Western Conference Finals. Of course, they were dealing with some injuries, but Vegas, dude, they're looking like a wagon. Torts really has this team figured out.
Absolutely. Talked to Cole Bagley earlier in the week on Scotty G and the coach, and I asked him about Tortorella because I've been impressed with how the Vegas team has been able to turn the corner since bringing in John Tortorella, and he said that bringing in a new head coach like that, like the way that they did, can really make a huge difference, and you're seeing it with the Vegas Golden Knights. They looked fantastic against the Avalanche. I certainly thought the Avalanche were going to be the team to advance, but now here you are with Colorado getting swept in the Western Conference Final.
This is not the same Vegas team that Utah played in the first round.
No, I would have to agree with that.
And that's the advantage. I mean, you bring in Torts with 8 games left, right, in the regular season. So really, in that first round, they're still learning under him. Now you're 2 months later playing under Tortorella.
Right.
That is not the same Vegas team.
And I think you can kind of look at Mitch Marner and see that encapsulates that, because we talked about Mitch Marner and how it took him a little bit of time for him to arrive into the playoffs, right? He didn't have a goal against Utah. Maybe he had a couple points in the earlier games, but he definitely didn't seem like the Mitch Marner, right, until maybe late in that series. Now he's probably one of the better players to watch in this Stanley Cup playoffs.
Yeah. Last week we had a conversation about, like, should Utah fans be upset feeling like they took Vegas, to Game 6, feeling like they maybe could have been in this spot? And I think ultimately that's where I land on is no, it's a different Vegas team. It's not the same one that Utah played closely and almost beat.
Which in turn, I kind of hope that, the front office of the Utah Mammoth don't look at it and say, look, we had these guys on the ropes and we put them really, really well, and kind of use that as a we've made it spot. Right?
Not quite.
I don't think that they would, from anything that we've heard from Andre Turney, from anything that we've heard from Bill Armstrong. Like, I don't think that they would use that as a platform to say, look, we've made it. This is as solid as we can get, because I think that you can do better as far as physicality goes, as far as getting some size on that team. So I hope that the front office doesn't see it as we had them this close, we were this close to they were on the ropes, and we're okay with where we're at.
So that's one side of the bracket. The other side, another crazy story, though. Carolina comes into this game with only one loss in the playoffs.
Wild.
At all. They swept the first 2 rounds. I believe they dropped Game 1 to Montreal.
Yes.
And then won 4 in a row.
Yes.
So they have 1 loss in 3 rounds of play. They are looking really dominant coming from the east side. I saw Cole Bagley, speaking to him, he was on Twitter saying that he still doesn't believe that Carolina is that good. We'll see, man. This is the first time ever that a team has made the Stanley Cup Finals with only 1 loss. So
I'd say that's pretty good.
Yeah,
I would say that's pretty good. They have, I wanted the Canadians to maybe give them a little bit more fight, but I think after that, what was it, Game 4 with Carolina at home?
Yeah.
Where they, on Wednesday night, where they just had a really, really disappointing performance. It kind of felt like that was over, and me and Tim talked about it earlier in the week, and we were like, yeah, it kind of feels like we're just going to ride in the Carolina Hurricanes at this point, because the Habs fell off a little bit.
Yeah. But again, like, that is a really, really good team. So
right, and it's setting up for a really fun matchup.
I think it's gonna be a great series.
It's gonna be a great series, and you want the best series of the playoffs to be in the Stanley Cup Finals, and now here we are, which potential I think for that to be the case. The first game is coming up on June 2nd,
Tuesday,
on a Tuesday, and we're looking forward to it, man. I'm excited to see the Stanley Cup Finals.
Just a reminder what else we have going on the station today. Utah Royals taking on the Portland Thorn. It's Thorn. No, it is Thorns.
Thorns,
it is
yes.
plural.
Yep, plural.
I thought they were one of those weird teams where it was just singular for no reason.
Not the Mammoth.
Royals taking on Portland at Portland. The pre-match show at 1:30, and then the game starts at 2. And then the Bees taking on Round Rock. That's going to get going at 4:50 with Tony Parks on the call.
Big, Utah Royals right now are on a hot streak, man. They're one of the best teams in the NWSL. The big matchup coming up here before the World Cup break.
They are number one in their
in the NWSL, yeah.
Oh, in the entire league. I thought this was just their division. No, they're tied with Portland actually with 23 points.
Yes.
So big game today.
Which makes this game even bigger because it's number one taking on number two. So it should be really fun. Tune in.
Fun one for the Royals.
Absolutely. Quick shout out to Connor, our guy Connor here at KSL on the street team. Hopefully our vernacular was better for you, man.
Yeah, shout out to Connor.
Shout out Connor.
I always need an excuse to shout out Connor.
Love that guy.
All right, we'll catch you next week. Thanks for listening. It's the Saturday Show, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Hey there, it's Wayfair here, where delivery and setup are as easy as a few taps on your phone. You're relaxing in an old hammock, scrolling Wayfair's app, when you spot it, a brand new patio set. Next thing you know, Wayfair delivers it right to your patio and sets it up. Oh, you need a new grill too? All right, Wayfair's got you covered. With Wayfair's Room of Choice delivery and fast expert setup on qualifying orders, life gets a little easier. Visit wayfair.com or the Wayfair app.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
Summer is all about freedom, fun, and growing up. And between the ages of 9 and 13, kids are starting to form their views about alcohol. With more independence, their still developing brains need more guidance and support than ever. That's why summer is the perfect time to stay connected and plan fun, safe family activities together. Research shows kids who spend quality time with their parents doing what they enjoy are less likely to drink underage. And when kids feel close to you, they're more likely to listen, especially when you set clear expectations. In fact, kids who drink before 15 are far more likely to struggle with alcohol later. This summer, create a no-bummer summer with fun, alcohol-free activities for your kids. Go to summer.parentsempowered.org to take a quick quiz and discover ideas tailored to your family. A little time together can make a big difference. For more information and to learn more about how to prevent underage drinking, visit parentsempowered.org.